I'm Reverend John Gill, pastor of Church of the Savior, United Church of Christ in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I also join my colleagues in ministry from across the state today in opposing the anti-women, anti-trans, anti-healthcare, anti-doctor, anti bills that have been passed by the Tennessee legislature in the last year and are on the docket again now, in the name and name only of opposing abortion and other things. These bills are not only bad legislation, as all of you in this room know, they are mean-spirited legislation.
Yes, they are.
They represent an extreme overreach of government control into the very lives of people and the very bodies of women, attempting to exert government control over deeply personal decisions that are theirs alone and theirs to make. As a Christian pastor, I often work with congregation members who are wrestling with difficult personal decisions, things like whether to end medical intervention for a loved one who is unconscious with no hope of recovery, whether to end a marriage that is unsafe or unhealthy for them or their children, and on a few occasions, whether or not to end a pregnancy for any number of reasons, including the life and health of the person who is pregnant.
Yeah.
And in my experience working with people, these kinds of decisions are deeply personal, complicated, and never easy. And for this very reason, they are decisions that need to be left to those who are involved based on their own faith and values, health concerns, and life circumstances. Do any of us really believe the state should be in the middle of such difficult family decisions, or that the blunt instrument of some legislative statute can take into account all of the life circumstances and health concerns that are involved in trying to make the best decision about whether to end a pregnancy, for example? Do any of us really believe that state government should be in the middle of the many personal, ethical, health, and social justice dimensions of the question of abortion? I agree with most people in our state, most people who believe the government should stay out of it and allow women to make their own best decisions about their own lives, bodies, and reproductive health care, and sometimes even their own life or death. When the first woman dies because a doctor could not perform an abortion to save her life, will any of these legislators be there to express their regrets to her family? Will Governor Lee be there? Will any of them be there to offer assistance to the single mother or the low-income family struggling to feed or clothe or educate their children because they were not allowed by the state to do their own family planning? How many women will have to die? How many children will have to suffer before our governor and the legislators who signed these bills have second thoughts about them, about what they have done? And the current legislation that's on the table that allows exceptions, finally, because there are no exceptions, as we know, in the current legislation that's out there. Of course, we support exceptions, but we support exceptions to these, placing exceptions within these bills in the case of the life of the person who's pregnant, or rape or incest and so on, without the strings that are attached to them now. People need to understand in Tennessee that these current bills offering exceptions are false flags, offering cover to legislators who can say that they then voted for exceptions, but making it extremely difficult and dangerous for women to follow through and get access to those exceptions. There's a story in the New Testament about an angry crowd with stones in their hands, ready to kill a woman for adultery, because that's what the blunt instrument of the law demanded at that time and place. Wherever the man was, we don't know, because things haven't changed much since then. For the crowd, the issue was clear-cut, because that's what the law said. But Jesus of Nazareth didn't see it that way. After kneeling down to think things over, he stood up and said, "Let the one who has not sinned, who has not erred, who is perfect, cast the first stone." The stones were dropped one by one, and the crowd dispersed. Unfortunately, reproductive health care has been turned into a shallow, overly simplistic political issue by those who want to use it for their own purposes. And we seem to like things simple. It's either this way or that so that we can feel good and righteous about being right. But the most important decisions in our lives are never simple. and require the kind of careful consideration and human compassion that only those involved in them can give. So especially when it comes to something as deeply personal to women as their own health, their own bodies, or a pregnancy, women deserve the right, the respect, and the freedom to make their own best decision about what to do. And let the one who has never faced a difficult personal challenge in their own life dare to cast the first stone.